Oprah Live. Hi, everybody. My name's Indy, and that gentleman way over there, all the way on the end, that's Jay. And in the middle, we have our special guest, Lady Aviana.
In the middle?
Huh?
I'm in the middle?
You're in the middle.
I feel so nervous. I feel like whenever you're in one of those, like you're like right in the middle of it, like after.
Yeah, so all we gotta, we just gotta turn and look at you. Like, it's like the Brady Bunch.
Oh, yeah, like the Brady Bunch.
Right.
Perfect.
And it looks like it says it's online there on LinkedIn, Jay. So I don't. It says it's working.
Check it.
Damn you, LinkedIn!
I swear, you can't. This is why we can't have nice things,
right?
So, and I'm not used to this, so I am going to call you by your real name because I can't still wrap my head around the rest of it.
Lady Aviana has been this handle that I've had for a long time. That's what they know me by, but like they also know me by Emily. If they didn't know me by Emily, then I say my name. Well, I talk about myself whenever I'm rambling on stream, and I'll say my name.
So we're not like breaking some giant confidentiality, anything. It's.
I used it back in the day so that no one could find out who I was, but now
Now it's like doesn't even matter. You know what I mean?
But then Google happened, and now that's all changed. I can't tell if we're live on LinkedIn or not. I don't know. Anyway, we're live everywhere else. So Emily, welcome to the show. Thanks for coming on. We had a
thanks for having me.
Very interesting conversation last night, just catching up and seeing everything. So we ended up with a lot more to talk about than we actually initially talked about. So it's going to be fun. And we're trying not to go over today because we all have like real jobs and stuff anyway. So let's start where we always start. Tell us about how you got into the industry at first and walk us through your career up to, today.
Okay, well, in general, I actually started doing PR stuff when I was about 18. A friend of mine was writing D&D books, so I would go to Gen Con and dress up as a character at the convention and sell books. That's kind of how I got my foot in the door when it comes to PR in general and kind of gaming in general, if you really tabletop gaming. And then I went to school for theater, and I did a lot of works with wigs and costumes, and I got into cosplay because of all of that. And I started working at a company called Arta Wigs. They're one of the top wig producers for cosplay in the country. And I helped them build their company from the ground up. So that was a really, I still look back at that company and I feel a lot of pride, looking at how far they've come from whenever I used to just do their orders. I'd have crates of wigs in my living room and be doing 3 orders a day, and now they're huge and everybody knows who they are. So that was a really proud accomplishment for me. But then I ended up trying to go into my theater degree. I moved out to Vegas and I was sewing sequins on showgirls and doing all that kind of stuff. But a friend of mine who had seen I'd met through cosplay was like, hey, my company is hiring PR in video games. Would you be interested? And I was just little Midwestern girl was just yeah. I didn't know that was how you got into the industry, but yeah, get me in. When I grew up in the middle of nowhere cornfields, and the idea of being in gaming was one thing that you only did. Yeah. So that's how I got into video games. I did PR for about 4 years for WayForward. Specifically, I was focused on, they did a Kickstarter, and so I was in charge of kind of manning their Kickstarter and making sure that it was talked to and all issues were dealt with and all codes got out on time and all posts got posted up on time. So it was fun. It was a fun first way to get into the industry. Now I actually work at a PR agency here in Las Vegas, and I do part-time work for a company called TikTok Games in Burbank, California. They're real great. They do a lot of mobile games. They had a console game that came out for Kickstarter a while ago. And I'm slowly kind of working my way back into the industry. I just became a board member here in Las Vegas for the IGDA. And yeah, that's kind of a little bit how I got into the industry.
It's, and I don't think a lot. One, there's not that set career path too, but I think a lot of us have that same reaction that you did when you're not growing up in Austin or Seattle or San Francisco or something like that, and somebody's like, "Do you want to work in the game industry?" And it's like, "Yes, absolutely." And then you work in the game industry, and
that I can do.
yeah, and you work in it for a little bit, and then you go, well, okay, either I really love this and I'm going to stick around, or you people are crazy and I'm going to go get a real job somewhere.
What if you feel a little bit of both, and you're just like, you people are crazy, but I love you?
That's, well, see, then you end up like me and you do this for 20 years and you turn around and go, well, no, I can't do anything else at this point. So you do, in addition to the community management and the PR stuff, you do a lot of, I mean, you are obviously an influencer, and then you do cosplay as well. You actually won awards and judged competitions. Did that come from the theater background in, high school and college, or, how has that background or that experience in theater helped or hindered you along the way, in your career?
That's a lot of questions. Well, I did a lot of growing up, and so I loved the idea of like acting. Like that's like why I wanted to get into theater. And then when I got into theater, I realized that I liked more of the back end stuff and like making the things and like giving the costumes to other people to put on and go out on the stage. I really enjoyed working with people a lot more. Like I liked I ended up getting my degree in theatrical directing. So like I found that one of my favorite things to do was to, talk to the lighting person, see their perspective on things, talk to the sound person, see their perspective on things, talk to the actor to see their perspective on things. And I feel like that in general has kind of helped me create a kind of thinking that works really well for the industry. And then cosplay was like was something that also came along with it. It was like, oh, well, here I'm learning fun, cool, and I really love these, these video game characters. Like, I can't draw. How about I make this costume for this character, right? I actually can draw a little bit. It's just not that. So it was kind of like a mix of things. Because when I went to school, a lot of the time, what they tell theater kids is like, you can't just be an actor. You have to like learn all the trades so that you can continuously work in it. And I think that actually translates really well into gaming, because as a PR person, or like you kind of have to have a little bit of knowledge about marketing, about working with influencers, about working with, with cosplayers, with companies, with the programmer. You have to think of like ways that you can incorporate all that kind of stuff into a game. Even if you're not necessarily like, a marketing person, you still got to think about how you're going to make a game if you decide to make a game. So it's kind of like an interesting kind of parallel that they're there. And then also I found like a really interesting niche from theater on how to get into the gaming world via cosplay. So I mean, I didn't start cosplay to get into the gaming world, but I definitely that's how I met a lot of my friends that are in the game now, is because I would dress up as a character that inspired me, and then the person who made that character would be like, you were awesome for dressing up as the character. You know what I mean? And I was like, no, you're awesome because you made a game I love. So, kind of a mutual thing.
It is interesting how, even though, I do say that I'm old and jaded and cynical at this point in time, every year it's still the same. It's like we get excited about a new game that came out that we may not have, maybe a brand new developer, or it may be a developer that we've known for many years, but we still get excited about a lot of these games. And if we didn't, and I strongly believe if you don't, this industry isn't right for you. You absolutely have to love what you're doing to survive in this world. because God knows we could all get real jobs, but that wouldn't be nearly as much fun. So, on the influencer side, I mean, we know that depending on the study you read, anywhere between 46 and 51% of the gamers in the world are women, but we have this drought of women influencers. It's like I was flipping through Twitch or Mixer or one of them this morning and just going like through the top streams. Like, one, they're all shooters because that's what's popular on Twitch with the MOBA thrown in there now and then, but it's overwhelmingly male streamers. Why is that? Why do you think that is?
I actually was thinking like how specifically I was going to answer a question a lot last night. I come from an age, I was kind of joking around about this earlier before the show started, that I come from the age where like girls don't exist on the internet. Like, we're not allowed to exist on the internet. This was a while ago because I'm old. But I think that it's a long time issue. Like, do girls really play games? Like, do they really enjoy games? I remember when I used to go to Gen Con, like, people would think I was there with my boyfriend, even though I had gone there by myself. And I kind of felt like I had to, like...
He's here with me. He doesn't know what a THAC0 is.
I was like, boyfriend.
Is that like an Instagram husband? Someone that just follows you around and take pictures?
Is that my bag of dice right here? I don't know. Like, you know? So I think that in general, there's kind of a stigma when it comes to the gaming industry of it was kind of an industry made by men for men. So I feel like women in general, they try to fit into that format rather than kind of paving their own way, I think, a lot of the time. However, I do think that it's changing. I do think there's lots of women now that are trying to pave their own way. But I think that a lot of time it's more about like becoming a part of the man's world, of the guy's world, because they're the ones that will accept you as being a nerd. You know, like, you will be accepted into the club of being a nerd if you're one of the guys. And I think that sometimes that's good, you know, like whenever you're trying really hard to like connect with people, you know what I mean? Like, so you're trying to connect with the guy and all that kind of stuff. But if you're wanting to like blaze the way and like actually make like a huge impression on people, it kind of has to break out of the box. And I don't think that that's really started happening until recent years. The game Controlled just came out. Control. 505 produced it.
It's called Control. I think I've heard of it, but I've been heads down on conference mode right now.
Yeah. So, it's but when it came out, it's a female protagonist. And so one of the big things that they did is they gave the code to all female streamers. And so this game is going to win like awards this year. It's like a huge success. And it's interesting to see like just the reaction to that. You know what I mean? Like how that made people feel. So
what was because I didn't know this. So what was the reaction? I mean, I can imagine what the reaction is, but in the event that I'm wrong, what was the reaction?
It was on both sides. Yeah, this is for us, by us, you know, like that kind of stuff. And then obviously some people who aren't necessarily as happy about that, you know. but in general, like I don't know. I'm a person who believes you have to make waves to make an impression.
So, do you think? I mean, we're seeing like, and I'm going to pick on Ammunition here, and not pick on her, but she's the first one that comes to mind. You know, when we talk about not only are women allowed to be on the internet, but do women play shooters? And she does. And the reason I came across her was because I love the titles of her streams that when she does it, and because they're just hilarious. But do you think that people like that are changing the mentality, or is it?
Yeah. Oh yeah. I remember when I was growing up that you know, like most personalities in video game guys, just the way that it was. And Felicia Day came out, right?
Yeah.
Like she became like a big deal. And like I just remember just being in love with her because she was me. She was the only version of me out there. So I think that when someone like Ammunition comes in, like women who've been playing FPS shooters for this long time and haven't felt like they're part of the community start to feel like they're a part of the community. And what streamers get to do, what allows them to really bring the community together is that connection, that like relatability, and then the community that also like, you know, fosters them, like that enjoys their company and wants to be personal. Back in the 90s, like in the 90s or was it 2000s when Real World came out and people started to really get into the idea.
It was 90s, yes.
Yeah. People really started to get into this idea of watching real people live their lives. And like we became like kind of connected to this idea of finding people who are relatable or finding people who show a lifestyle that we really like. And so when we get people like, how do you say it, Ammunition?
Ammunition.
I never really say out loud, but I like.
Yeah, I know, really. Like my handle. No, I'm assuming it's ammunition, like ammunition, except ammunition. But
yeah, with people like that, when they come out, it makes people who felt like they didn't have a voice, like now they have a voice. Now they have a community. Now they have somebody that they can relate to and feel comfortable with. You know, like just like whenever I saw Felicia Day for the first time, I was like, "Woo, redhead gamer girl!" Like, yes, I'm so happy. There's finally one like me. Like, hey, I could be her. I could be cool, and you know, I could sing the songs about being nerdy. Yeah, so I think that like people like Ammunition, they do that for women who've been playing FPS shooters. You know, too much coffee.
and she's also the one who called out Twitch at TwitchCon about having the bar with just a shitload of open beer sitting on the table.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, which to
God
me,
love her for that. God love her.
that, you know, so, I mean, you have to ask, it's like if someone else, you know, had done that wasn't as well known and heavily followed as her, would it have taken off? But, you know, it's good. It's good that she's got, you know, the confidence and the, you know, I don't know the phrase for this, the don't give a fuckedness to go and say, yeah, I'm going to do this. I'll call you out on this. What are you going to do? You know, and then that's.
It's great when people who have a voice use that to uplift and make the world a better place. So I know, like, it's weird to say, like, well, how did talking about drinks, you know, at TwitchCon really make the world a better place? And it's just, you know, it's just a reminder of, like, you know, this isn't something that's like that safe for us women. It's not safe for everybody. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
But like I remember as a young girl, like, you know what I mean? Like, and so to have that there, it's like a blatant, like, we don't care kind of way of looking at things. Like, they don't think ahead of time on those kinds of things. And I think, you know, like, that kind of stuff needs, you know, like, it's good when someone can point them out.
Well, and it's good too when you're dealing with something like Twitch and Amazon that, you know, somebody who has a voice gets out there and says it, because that's how you get them to pay attention, is when investors or stockholders go, oh my God. Yeah, that's when shit changes, not really, you know, anything else. So as developers, you know, and publishers are going out there and they're working through their social media or their influencer marketing campaigns, why should they be concerned about attracting women to play games versus not necessarily attracting men, but versus attracting anybody? You know, what's different in there other than the underrepresentation side that they should be, you know, concerned about, and the reasons why they should be doing it?
Well, I think, like we were talking about earlier, the statistics that, you know, women can be anywhere between 46 to like 52%, like, when it comes to like who's playing video games, right? I think I read a statistic recently that said that there's more women who own consoles than there are men. And I think that because we live in a market right now where people want these relatable people they want these people that they can feel like they can look up to, and they can watch, but it's on a more personal level than like watching a TV show. Having influencers and such involved in your marketing would greatly assist in general with marketing, let alone when it comes to like when you're trying to market to women. If they make up half of the people playing video games, and we're not like, you're not pushing that extra envelope of like, hey, maybe we should, make this, like, gear this a little bit more towards women on the marketing side, then you're really just kind of missing an opportunity, like, for advancement. I also read a statistic that there's more older women, like I think it's like between the ages of 45 and 65 playing video games than men. So in general, you're gonna continue to hit that bottom line if you continue to market to people who are playing games longer. You know what I mean? Like if you're half of the population that's playing the game and then you're also playing it longer, I don't really see a reason for people to not want to market to that specific kind of group.
Well, and you're right on that number about the older women more so than the older men, because we had that explosion of casual games 10, 15 years ago, where the hidden object match 3 world absolutely
expanded. Mahjong, like it's going out of.
Well, I mean, yeah, exactly. My wife and I were at a theater, and we're sitting there waiting for the show to start, and 2 women come in and sit down beside us, and they had to be in their 80s, and one of them pops out her phone and starts playing Candy Crush, and I was just like, we did it! We have officially hit every demographic. That's the point. And so, it is, and you see some of these folks getting introduced to other genres from a casual genre, so to speak. I mean, Robbie Ismail is always tweeting about his mom playing like seriously hardcore games, and how she does it versus somebody else. And so yeah, I agree. I mean, we've been in such a stigma mindset for so long that video games are just for boys 18 to 24 that, now it's time to start, explaining. And I think a lot of the publishers know this, but it doesn't seem to affect their marketing all that much. But it is important for indies to know, because, I mean, every sale counts when you're a small developer. And if you're not targeting literally half of your market, there's a problem there. And, the easy way to do that is to reach out to some of your, the women, female streamers in your network, and the ones not in your network. Do some research, figure out who people are. It's part of everybody.
Oh, for sure, yeah.
So I mean,
just stay in your network.
Exactly. Don't stay in your own little cubbyhole.
Don't stay in your lane.
Yeah, they're all my lane. That's the problem. So I mean, what can they do? I mean, aside from just like reaching out to more, women influencers, what are some things that these developers and the indie folks out there can do to help market and raise awareness for their game, with women?
I think that one of the major things, I read a statistic the other day that said that there was like making the games, which is crazy to me, because like if you had more women in games, then you could add more aspects to the games that your female audience would enjoy. So I think it definitely can start there, is getting women more into the industry. It's easier to figure out how to create a game that can be noticed by women with women involved. I think it's one of the ways that they can do it. I think another is to really just ask the questions of what women really would like in games. You know what I mean? Like go out into your community and like actually read what some of these women are saying. And some of them are going to say things that maybe you're not sure about, or you don't necessarily understand. But I think it's important to take into consideration like how they feel about certain things, and think about that whenever you're thinking about like how the game once it's out. But I definitely think that female influencers is probably one of the highest ways to market to females right now. I'm very strongly in that category of the online influence being a mainstay in like how marketing goes nowadays.
So if you, what's the likelihood? And in my head, it's going to be pretty high. If developers go out and start saying, you know, what do women want in games? When the reality is, you know, we're all playing a lot of the same games anyway. What's the risk that then they're going to just start overreaching and putting a whole lot of stereotypical, you know, pink it and shrink it type crap in the games, and then we just go back to the way things were?
I'm sorry, what was the way of thinking?
Well, I mean, we go back to the same stereotypes, you know. So
making games that are pink.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, yeah. I think that it's very narrow-minded to exactly like that. I'm not necessarily saying that you have to, like, you know, give a female protagonist a pink outfit and then it's going to make a girl happy. I think it's more along the lines of women want things too that are probably in the same vein as what men want, and just like listening to those few things can really help with how a game is made overall. So say, kind of put my thoughts together on this one.
Ha ha, curveball.
So, like say you have a game with a female protagonist, and females are like, we want more outfits, but we don't necessarily want them to be skimpy. Like, they don't have to be skimpy in the game. You can come up with like a bazillion outfits that both men and women would like that aren't skimpy. So it's like one of those circle charts, right? Like where you're like, okay, well, this is what all the women and this is what all the men wanted. What comes together in the middle and that we can create? And I think that people miss out on that because they're like, oh, well, women, pink, girls, you know, fun, cutesy, like that like those are like the stereotypes of what they are. But I think that if you look, we're all nerds here. Like if you look, we have a lot of overlap. And sometimes those overlaps are like, you know, randomly found, and sometimes they're not. And I think find that overlap really will help, especially with indie games, finding that overlap. So, and this is, well, you know, tangent type here. Here we go. We made it to what, 4 questions? So if you haven't... I left the list.
I told you to throw it out the window.
Yeah, see? I actually I could have done this after the second question, but I didn't. I was like, we're going to go and stick to it. Anyway, whatever. Screw that. So if you've watched the show on the series on Netflix called The Toys That Made Us, they have one about Lego in general. And one of the things that surprised me is when Lego came out with their Lego Friends sets, which were different, you know, the characters were different than the minifigs, and it was obviously geared, you know, towards girls. I was sitting there and going, this is a horrible idea. There is no way in hell this is going to work. Girls that, you know, play Lego aren't going to be, you know, all of a sudden more attractive. It's turned out to be one of their biggest selling lines. And it's because, like you said, with those 2 circles in the Venn diagram, they didn't go all the way to one side with the let's just make pink Legos, you know, mentality, but they found that middle ground in there that made it work for everyone. Of course, what they also realized is maybe boys and girls don't necessarily want everything Lego puts out to be, you know, licensed, and maybe we could get back to, you know, I don't know, selling the box of random Legos that we had as kids.
Oh, man.
But, you know, it's one of those examples that I looked at, and my immediate instinct was this big old corporation just decided to paint everything pink, and they're going to make it, you know, work. And it did work. However they did it, and whatever they put in there that was that little special sauce has turned it into like one of their biggest lines. So it's always, and there's no, I don't have a right answer to my question. I mean, good answer to my question either. It's always just that thing in my head. It's like if we tell men to go out and put more stuff in their games that will attract women, are we going to end up in this ditch of, well, congratulations, now you can dress your character and there's some pink stuff in there and they think that's going to work?
Well, no, if they bring women on board to their, they won't have to ever worry about that because the women will be just like, stupid.
Well, yeah, I know. That's exactly the point. And then you end up in that cycle where they do that, it doesn't work, and then they just go back to their next design meeting and went, well, obviously catering to women doesn't work. Let's just keep doing what we're doing.
Exactly.
It's like all those wonderful, laws that you see interacted with, that focus on women, and it's nothing but like a bunch of old white dudes in the room making the law. So anyway, before we get into all of that crap, where was I? Okay, your favorite influencers. So who influenced you, and who do you look at in the market today? And I know you've taken a bit of a break from actually streaming yourself, but I mean, you still obviously know the folks. Who are the influencers that you see out there that you look up to or point other people to?
Okay, well, in general, I wore my friend's shirt today, Skinned Teen. Because I knew this is
what is it?
Skinned Teen. She is a little Daria figure in the corner of her screen that's like a goth Daria, and she does a lot of like horror games. A lot of the people say are like horror nerd, like that's kind of what my whole genre is of my preferred genre of choice. But I mean, like I was like a big fan of Adam Savage for a really long time. Like I still watch a lot of Tested stuff. Streamer wise, I really love streamers that do character stuff, like that like make a character when they stream. That's like a big draw for me. But then a lot of those people who do character streams also do a lot of they have a lot of community involved in that. Like that's one of the big things about people who, like they'll act like a super villain, like a Warwitch TV or a Call of Cthulhu. It's not like necessarily a super villain, but character, and they act. They have this whole like theme of their stream, but at the end of the day, they're genuine people and they go out into their community. Like I'm more into those two things, craft and community. Those are my two huge Twitch like things. Skinned Teen is like really big into like production and that kind of stuff. I also really like Fist of the Walrus and Steel Ray we were discussing earlier, Indy. Those are some of my favorite people. They do characters like through role playing on. I watch a few different speedrunners. Trying to think of one of them off the top of my head right now. I think Toby Ongat is one, or is it Tony Ogbot? Tony Ogbot, yeah. But then I also watch a lot of YouTube. I'm like a YouTuber too. So like I watch a lot of beauty influencers and drag queens, and I try really hard to be as diverse in like what I watch as possible, because I feel like the more diversity you give yourself, the more it opens your eyes to like how different aspects of the world. So I think like as somebody who does PR, like that's a very important thing to pay attention to, because you don't know if you're going to be working on a horror game one day and then a platformer the next day and a mobile game the next day. And so you need to kind of have an idea of who's out there, what they're doing, which ones are positive. You want to make sure that you get positive influence. You know what I mean? And I try to follow positive influencers, and I also try to kind of keep aware of like some of the influencers that are not as positive. Like kind of have a little bit more toxic communities that tend to like you go in their chat and you're just like, wow, bye. You know what I mean? Like, so, but like I'm involved in a Twitch stream team called Types of Bee, and it's just a completely female stream team. Yes, joke behind it. But it had for a while it had like Lol Renee. Big fan of Alseth. I drink too much coffee, so again, there's those weird words.
Well, the audio's cutting in and out too, so we're getting like half of.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. It's just gotten worse like in the last like 5 minutes. So
Yeah.
anyway,
Maybe I should close some.
You would think with how expensive gaming laptops are getting that they would have like really nice mics in them. My gaming laptop doesn't even have a mic. Ridiculous.
What?
My laptop doesn't have a
make
mic. I know. It doesn't make any sense.
My $250 Chromebook has a mic.
I know.
Anyway, all right. So
Yeah, so I have a lot of influencers. I can't really specifically because it really depends.
Now it's even worse.
And my friend Christine, because I will always promote her. She's amazing.
Yeah, now it's even worse. We're getting like 30% of what you're saying.
I would offer advice on how to fix that, but Indy's the one that knows all of that stuff.
Not me. I'm not a techie. I can run a stream. Fix a computer? Hell no. I just pay someone to do it.
That's far more tech than I am. I had one of the dads at school yesterday say, "Oh yeah, you do IT work, don't you?" And I'm like, No. I can't possibly do that. It's like, yes, I work in video games, but I do the business end of it.
That's what my mom goes, are you still working with your computers? Yes, that's what I'm doing, Mom. I'm doing with the computers.
So, given the work,
Am I still bad?
Huh?
Am I still bad?
Not right now.
not yet.
Picking up? Okay, not yet.
We'll know.
Get the question in before it starts happening.
We'll know in a minute. So, given all the stuff that you do with cosplay and with streaming, how do you feel that helps expand the audience? And talk about that overlap between cosplay and gaming communities. And then I'll add another question on at the end of that one. But how does that help you do basically, how does that help you do the marketing stuff, the PR and the marketing with your experience in those two communities?
Well, I was very involved in the cosplay. So because of that, I got that video gamers and cosplayers and people who sell things. I used to go to conventions all the time with art. I met a lot of people. So that's kind of how it kind of helps me a little bit specifically. But I think that it helps me because I would make costumes and I made horror costumes and everything back in the day. That's what I became like really big for. It taught me how similar just being a cosplayer is to being like what an influencer is now. And I feel like cosplayers are kind of influencers when they don't make videos and all that kind of stuff. Maybe they do a little bit of overlap because I started a community of people that, like I would go to all these conventions and I would hang out with them. They would come to my website. They would like follow me on socials and we would have conversations. They would ask me questions about their costumes. I would make them tutorials. And so I started to realize really early on that like when you make a character that people like they personally feel invested in that character. They feel connected to you as a cosplayer because you enjoy the same thing that they do, but they also feel connected to you because you're cosplaying something that means something to them. So it's like almost like a dual relationship. You know what I mean? Like there's two forces at play there. Somebody that's cosplaying is like connected to me, and then also they're doing a character that I really like. I feel like that fits really well into the gaming community. So like if a girl is at a booth dressed up as Tifa at Final Fantasy VII's booth, like that's gonna make somebody's day when they go to a convention because they get to meet the character that they've loved their entire life, plus meet someone who they know also more than likely loves their entire life. There was a time way back in the day when and that sort of thing. But that doesn't even really bother me that much. You're still making a connection with a human being. So I think that's what cosplayers add to the is that like you bring this person in who already has a community to your convention, to your show, whatever, to making your character, and like posting pictures of it on the internet. And then people that like your game or may not know about your game, they can see this character and they can connect to your game through this character because somebody that's living is actually creating that character and being that. So I think that there's like a lot of interesting dynamics that go into that. But I think that also goes back to the idea that everybody connection. Like that's a lot of what social marketing is now. They want to make that personal connection, and it's so much easier to do that when it's like somebody dressed up as a character. So.
And you get a level of passion in there as well that you don't see from, just the normal fan. I mean, obviously developers are very passionate about what they do, but it's like, when you have that other person that's coming in and they're excited and they're dressing up, and that kind of in some ways makes it all worthwhile to the developer. And I've seen at a lot of the shows that I go to, the cosplay is actually becoming an entry point into real jobs in the industry, because it's one of the absolute. I know, really, it's a shocker, isn't it? One of the absolute best reps I have ever seen for a video game, and I don't remember what the game was now. It was several years ago, but she would sit down there and would have 2 or 3 people all playing the game, and she was absolutely positive and encouraging, yet at the same time directing you so you knew what the hell that you were doing. And I looked at her, I was there meeting with the team, and I looked at her and I said, "You are hands down one of the best, PR community manager, just basically managing the show reps that I've ever seen at the show." I said, "So how did you get here?" And she's like, "I'm just one of the fans, and they asked me because I lived locally if I would come over and do this." And I'm like, there you go. I mean,
goes into it if you can find the right people, for sure. Like if you like, when I was working at Way Forward, we had a girl that worked the company was helping us port some of the Shantae games. And she was like in love with Shantae, and she made like a Shantae costume and came to E3 one year when we were showing off the game. And just the fact that she was so excited about the game. We had people sitting in front of the Shantae demo for like hours because there's this girl dressed up, excited, talking to you about the game. Like, you know what I mean? Like what better presentation is there than that? The character in your game telling you how to play the game, being there to talk about the game. Just I can't think of a better presentation. Honestly, maybe Keanu Reeves telling me I'm breathtaking, but that's about it.
Well, yeah, but that's like, let's face it, that's not going to happen to most of us. That's just going to be.
Oh, he did. He said that to me. I don't know what you're talking about.
Oh.
Like every time I've met him, he said that.
Yeah. Hey, Fire Hero, this is not an old video.
Yeah. This looks like no. We're just old people. That's the difference. Well, Indy and I are not necessarily Emily. So.
Oh, trust me, I've been an adult for a long time. I just haven't.
That's the way I am. It's like, you don't act like an adult. It's like, I know. What would be the fun of that?
Exactly.
So you made a comment last night when we were chatting that, one, I was joking about we're just going to hand this whole thing off to you to interview because you're the one that's had the one interview class in journalism as opposed to, I don't know, Indy, did you take journalism classes in college or in school?
Oh, I'm sorry, Indy.
I did not.
See, I didn't either. So therefore, she's automatically the most qualified person on this.
I took like one semester in junior college. I didn't know if I wanted.
But you are in the same boat I am in many ways. And you were talking about being a theater major, and you said, it's not the degree people want to see when I turn in my resume.
They want to see that you have a communications degree.
I have an English degree. A communications degree would be a step up from what I have. It's...
But first you know English, and then you communicate.
Yeah, no, really. I can read. There's my college right there. Is it as something? Obviously, I'm a little bit out of the job market because I haven't looked for a job in a decade. Is what you majored in college as important in our industry versus, I don't know, a real job? But because you all, and I'm always the one that when the teacher, I get called to talk to, high schools and kids that, because they just like, oh my God, you make video games, and they automatically assume that I'm the guy behind Fortnite and Madden. And I'm like, I'm not. I've worked on a load of games, and you've probably never heard of most of them. But I tell the teachers before I get in there, don't look to me to be the one to tell these kids to study hard and go to college so they can get in the game industry, because that's just not how it is. Has it changed that much, or is there still a big emphasis in game companies to look at what you majored in college?
Well, I think a majority of when I said that last night,
Right, we lost all of that. you said after you said when I said that last night, and then
yeah, most of the time that's real world jobs.
Okay.
But video game industry, I think they like the idea of this bright-eyed, bushy-tailed person who just got out of school to do exactly what they want them to do. They like that idea.
Oh, they love that idea, because that person will work 80 hours a week.
Exactly. But I think that when it comes to having my theater degree, I've been able to show people that I have a completely different perspective on how to approach looking at marketing for a game, because I've worked with different kinds of people. It helps me to be able to work with all the different sorts of people that are involved in the process of making a game. And I think that it also, because I come from this long history of messages and trying to explain the message of a play, it helps me out a lot with when it comes to portraying the message of a game through PR. So I think that a lot of people think that it's a very interesting way, and sometimes I can kind of push the idea that this is a very interesting way of thinking around marketing. So that's kind of the way it's always been. Is people are very interested in oh, how did you get here? And then I kind of just this is
first,
exactly
I'm not 100% sure that you got your theater degree, because you're saying it all wrong. Anyone with a theater degree says theater.
But she does spell it R-E versus E-R. So, that's the dignified spelling.
Pottery.
Yes. It's that is not even a word.
Well, I grew up when I was younger. I worked in a movie. And then, I got into theater. So,
that's another thing. You grew up when you were younger. That doesn't make sense.
I grew up when I was younger.
I didn't. I grew out, but I didn't grow up. I'm
trying to drink my coffee.
I'm easy. I'm halfway through the day, and y'all are over there still trying to wake up.
I know. I was it's not even 10 yet. Jeez, what are you thinking? I haven't even had any coffee.
It's helpful, because the first thing I go to mind is I can really act like I like your game. That's what I'm doing here. I can.
That's why you have theater?
Yes, it's I can totally act like I give a shit. That's but I do think it's interesting, and like you said, when you try to go and you try to watch a lot of different influencers, it brings back to your point about one day, if you're doing PR, one day you might be doing a platformer, the next day a horror game, the next day a shooter or what have you. That's the adaptability that you have to have in this industry. Just like you said with college, they said, yes, you can act, but you have to also know all this other shit so that you have something to do when you're not acting. And that's the exact way I got into the industry. I started out as a tester, basically, and then my first job was a company with 3 people, me and 2 other people. And so I saw every single aspect of everything that we did, and it makes it a little easier to go and find out what you actually like, which goes back to college. 2 years.
I worked at a company before where I was doing management and all that kind of stuff, but then and it was like, who's going to do it? Well, I'm connected to that, and I need to make communities happy. I jumped in. That's the kind of versatility that you kind of need sometimes when you're working in the gaming industry. Like, you have to have that, otherwise you're just not going to survive. You know what I mean? And that was just a small example. You know what I mean? Like, there's other dynamics that are larger.
So, I mean, there's, like I said, when I go talk to the schools, and it's even true up to some of the college level as well, they want to go get internships, but they want to go get internships at Epic and EA and, Microsoft and these huge companies. And I'm like,
very ambitious, but
it is, that rubber stamp on your resume is going to look nice, but it's the same rubber stamp that 300 other people who are interns at that company, over the last 4 or 5 years have. But you're going to get a very, very focused, job while you're there. And if that's what you want to do for the rest of your life, then God willing, do it,
But you know what? On the reverse side of that, I know animators, this is one example, and also like PR people, influencer that have been working in the industry for like 10 years. And then the kind of jobs that they get offered is like entry level, whatever, or an animator that's animated for like Blizzard and Epic and all of this stuff, and then they like go to apply for a job and they're like, well, we want you to do an animation test, and it's like, didn't you just see I just animated 20 League of Legends characters and like all these animations for Apex, but then you want me to do an animation test?
The gaming industry
Completely cut out.
Yeah, we lost all of that.
Everything was dang you in your soft-spoken voice.
I was gonna say that's I think that was that like itself has a little bit of stigma from the outside world as well. You know what I mean? Like, you can say that you did all this PR work for this gaming company, but then when you go out into the new world and try to say that you did PR, it's like, okay, well, where's your experience? And you're like,
yeah. Well, I mean, and another thing, and this is like a topic we can totally do a whole show on, is the ageism in this industry. And because all of these companies are used to hiring, the 20-year-olds coming out of college that are going to work 60 hours a week.
Game crunch.
That's the only thing they know to test for. So when somebody comes in that's been doing this for 10, 15 years, their mentality isn't even wrapped around the fact that, I could go play all the damn games they've shipped, but another side is just sit down and do it. And yeah, we need to do an ageism show one day, because
back when I was your age.
But I mean, the flip side of it is
insane.
If it weren't for the ageism that is rampant in this industry, I wouldn't have started my company, because that's literally the reason I started it, was because I was sick of interviewing for jobs and getting offered entry-level positions, even though I had already been in the industry for a decade. And so I was like, fuck it, I'll be a consultant. And then I found other folks that were like, yeah, we can do this too. And so, but that's a whole different ball of wax. There's the thing about college, and this is where I used to get reprimanded by my wife, but now she's just used to this lecture. Whenever we have family or friends and their kids going to college and they're like stressing over what their major is going to be, and I'm the one in the room that turns around and goes, it doesn't matter unless you're going to be a lawyer or a doctor. And I'm sure there's probably something else in there, maybe a rocket engineer as well.
I mean, it can sometimes help, but it doesn't.
No. It picks something you enjoy and at least get through college. Just having that piece of paper that says I finished college is 90% of it. I mean, so anyway, I told you yesterday that I would tell you the story about my college major. Let's say I just kind of struggled through the first year of college because I discovered beer, basically. I come into the room one day and I'd already gone through like three majors,
I feel that.
you know, and my roommate's in there, another one of my good friends is in there, and they're both like brilliant, smart accountants, you know, and I said, I know what I'm going to do. And they said, what? And I said, I'm going to get an English degree. And Tony looked at me and just like his eyes were, he's like, what in the hell are you going to do with an English degree? And I was like, I don't know. I'll be a lawyer or something. There was no plan to it at all. Turns out my GPA, by the time I graduated, there's not a law school in the world that would have taken me. But, you know, it's one of those things that you need to pick something that you enjoy and that you're passionate about, whether it is your college degree or your job, frankly. You know,
I completely agree with that. Like, we live in a society, we're going to be working until we die. I hate to be morbid or whatever, but so you got to feel good to get done in the morning. I mean, you kind of have to.
It's like every time you get to the exact point is when your mic cuts out. It's like, we're gonna put this episode out as like interview Mad Libs, and so you can dub whatever you want Emily to be saying in these points into the audio, and then we'll re-release them as
I don't know why it's doing that. That's
Bad lip reading or whatever.
Oh yeah, exactly. I love those videos.
Those bad lip readings are hilarious.
But you are. I mean, I could tell basically what you were getting at there. You're going to be doing this until you die, because let's face it, especially if you're here in the U.S., our Social Security from my age and back is fucked. You're not going to get it. Pick something you like. Don't be that person that, you know, ends up going to a job that you absolutely detest for years on end. So, anyway, all that actually, and you know, to bring it full circle and to use my English literature degree, that is why the passion that you show in theater and cosplay make you a good, you know, PR and community manager. See that? I buttoned all that shit back together.
Yeah, that's
that awesome.
$250,000 spent right there.
Yeah.
You know,
remember my lips right now, and you guys could just add something in later.
That's funny. The mic can't handle the truth.
You can't handle the truth, Mike.
Just continually beeping. Beep.
All right, so do we? Oh yeah, we did have another question. Oh my God, Indy, we're going to get through all the questions we had today.
Dun, dun, dun.
Eventually. All right, so
Yeah, that's right.
the folks that are out there that want to get into streaming, and I'm even going to expand this out into the industry, you know, what is your advice? What's the best advice you ever got? What do you recommend, you know, especially to the women out there that are watching this and, you know, they want to be in the industry too. And even more especially the women in the Midwest, because God knows anybody getting out of the Midwest is,
Come on in.
and I know one other woman from the Midwest, and she's actually on the Xbox team at Mixer. So congratulations to both of y'all for getting out of the Midwest.
Yeah.
But what is your advice in there?
I was actually going to say this, and I just realized kind of encompasses everything, is get out there, like go to IGDA and meetups and meet other gamers. Get to go to conventions, go out to the parties. It doesn't necessarily mean you have to drink and get crazy. Just go and meet people. Like, no one is going to come to your Twitch channel. I mean, you know, if you're on a list, people might click in channel, but no one's going to go to your Twitch channel until you start going on to other people's Twitch channels and people start to know who you are because you're hanging out with everybody. You're showing that you're a part of the community, that you're, like, you're connected to everybody else. You can't just sit at a table and wait for people. You know what I mean? Like, that's not, like, get out there and like meet people, but also know that people don't necessarily want to meet a fake person. They want to be able to feel connected to you. That's a big part of our society nowadays. I can't keep pushing this point enough here. And like, you know, like with women, like we want to feel connected to one. We want to be able to do that. And so, to you know, don't put a fake persona out there. Just be who you are. And it doesn't necessarily be like, obviously, I told you guys I really love character streamers or whatever. But yeah, you can still be real and pretend that you're, a dog on the internet. So you agree. So you know what I mean? Like, I think so. I think those are my two biggest ones. But like, if you wanted to get more specific, like we were talking about streaming, like like this idea of continuing to talk, like we could go into details of that too if you want.
There's so much out there, and there is I see the same thing on the side of new influencers and new streamers that I do with a lot of new games coming out, and it's the fact that there is so much stuff out there right now that you really have to make sure that you're delivering something unique and it's not the same as everything else that everybody else is doing. You've got to work to market your own self. Like you said, nobody's going to come to your stream until you go to other people's streams. But at the same time, you've got to do something to make you stand out. And it doesn't mean you have to go and necessarily dress up in outrageous outfits every single week or something along those lines. But you need to make sure that you're not doing something that's just exactly like everybody else. And people are like, well, why should I even pay attention, because I can just watch this kind of stuff anywhere. It's
find that one unique thing about you that you really like. You know what I mean? Like I really like cyberpunk and horror games, right? Like that's a big part of me. So when I did my Twitch channel, I was like, how can I make this like a cyberpunk/horror themed channel? Like, how can I do that? And so I think that if you present that to yourself, like when I talk to people about doing PR work, it's like, what makes me different? Oh, well, I started off in cosplay. I was a theater major. Like those are things. And so you want to highlight that whenever you meet these people, when you talk to these people, so that they can remember you, so that you're not just, Joe Schmo streaming Fortnite on the list of people streaming Fortnite. I think that and there's like working in the industry, doing PR, doing streaming, like all that kind of stuff. So I actually think that if people want to get into PR, then you should go out and you should start making YouTube channels, maybe cosplay, maybe stream, all that kind of stuff, because you'll learn so much about the industry just from doing that. It may not be necessarily like, you're not going to, the keywords are like, ROIs, KPIs, B2B, like you're not going to learn that specifically, whatever you do when you do streaming, but you'll learn a little bit about the general idea behind what it's like to do PR. You know what I mean? And then you can also, from there, like if you wanted to get into other industries, specialize, you can watch YouTube videos about programming. You can watch YouTube videos. You can watch Twitch people doing programming or doing animation. And so like it all kind of can weave together as long as you explore them. Did you hear any of that?
What? Was you talking? No, I'm kidding. No, yes, we were. I was looking up something because I had to find it. I want to make sure everyone knows. The reason that I pick on the Midwest is I have 2 clients in the Midwest, and there's actually, so if you are in the Midwest and you want to get into the industry, starting today actually is GDEX, which is a fairly large game industry convention over in Columbus, Ohio.
Oh, really? So, that's cool.
Yes. See, so I pick on the Midwest because I love the Midwest. It's everybody. Then again, if I could get a lot of press for the show by someone tweeting and getting angry that I was hating on the Midwest, I would actually be okay with that too. It's perfectly fine with me.
I love living in the Midwest. Chicago's a beautiful town. Like I lived there for a few years. And I actually have a friend who went to school for gaming there. He did one. You're in it for like 12 months or something, and then you get your degree, like a really rigorous course. But
did they teach business?
They might have.
They didn't. I can just about guarantee you they didn't.
But now he works at he makes apps for banks. Like he went in to do like and he loves it. He loves his job. He loves it. So like sometimes it doesn't necessarily work out the exact way you wanted it to, but it'll work out for the best. I thought I was going to sew sequins on the show in my life, That's what I thought I was going to do. And now I work in the video game industry, and my 14-year-old self would just be like, what? And have a heart attack.
Yeah, I know. My 43-year-old self still wonders how I ended up doing this. So it's all good. Well, thank you so much. If you've got more questions or you want to chat, Emily is on our Discord.
More questions. Oh, are we going to do it right now or no?
Well, I mean, we haven't had anything specific come in, but I was going to say, you're on the Discord, so
yes, I am.
Join our Discord. It's discord.gg/indiegamebusiness, and she's around. She's in the coveted, show guest category there.
And if you're a woman and you're looking to get into
all of those things that she just said that nobody heard.
That is exactly how you make millions in the game industry. I appreciate that. So that advice was awesome. So again, if you are a woman in the industry and you want to get into
streaming, influencing, PR, or just general programming, making games, I am willing to talk, to give you advice and ideas and all that.
So she's on Discord. 5 easy steps. Yeah, there's on Twitter, on Twitch. Her Twitch is Lady Aviana. I'm sure your Instagram is, right? All of everything.
I am Lady Aviana across the, even LadyAviana.com.
.com. That's how you say it from the Midwest, right? LadyAviana.com.
I don't even notice a Midwestern accent because I live my entire life.
Yeah.
But I always notice a Southern accent.
Jay.
Yeah, Southern.
Because I lived in Austin, Texas for.
Well, see, Austin, I mean, a friend of ours and another cosplayer lives in Austin, and there's so many random people that live in Austin anymore. Is it really that? Is it, do the Southern accent still pop out in Austin, or is it such a melting pot at this point?
I don't know. I didn't live there. So my mom did it blank out again?
Sorry, Andy. We're going to have so much fun redubbing this one. It's all good. It's the people, on the podcast that can't see how much fun we're having that are going to be missing out a little bit.
Yeah. They're good, though.
So what else we got? So join the Discord. You can find us all there, discord.gg/indiegamebusiness. If you go to indiegame.business on the web, you'll get all the information that you need about where to find us online with the podcast, the live streams, whatever, and also our upcoming virtual networking event, which is going to be on the 7th and 8th. That's where yes, what?
Go to it.
Yes. You don't have to. That's the beauty of it. You don't have to
people.
Go anywhere.
Exactly.
You can meet marketing companies and publishers and all of these people that you need to meet in the industry, and you can do it from your couch or your office with the couch. Either way, you don't have to freaking travel. It's wonderful. You don't have to know anybody. That's why we have the Meet to Match software there. You can simply go, I'm a developer and I need a marketing team, and it will shoot you out a list of the marketing teams that are going to be at the show. You click on one, you book a meeting, and when it's time for your meeting, you click a link and you do a face-to-face video chat. And you don't have to go.
That's amazing.
I know, but nobody wants to talk about it. So we have our show, and we have to constantly, get the word out that this is a thing. And then I love to say, the show is sponsored by the Powell Group. Because I'm kind of both of those. But if you're a developer and you need to reach your publishers or you need any sort of business advice at all, go to the indiegame.business site. We'll kick you to our site too, or find me on the Discord. I'm always happy to sit down and give you my thoughts or give you a piece of advice. And if you want to, hire the Powell Group, all the better. We can do that too. So, did I miss anything, Indy?
You did. Anchor FM.
Anchor FM. See, I can't keep track of all the shit that we have to plug, and we don't even have sponsors, So you would think growing up in North Carolina, where like NASCAR is embedded in everything, I would be able to sit down at the end of the show.
Today. I got my disc.
Yeah, see, I need to get me a driver's suit that's got all of this shit on it, so I can just go, okay, yeah. And today we're thinking Bojangles. So yeah, the what are we talking about again? I swear to God,
I don't have any idea.
Talking about how whenever I talk Yordle about him.
See?
Did it happen?
Did
it happen?
No, you're good right now. So good. All right. I think we're done. Are we done?
We're done. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Thank you, Lady Aviana. I'll see you somewhere in the world.
Okay.
Are you going to play in Red Dead Redemption 2 on Twitch RP?
I want to, but I think it might be actually coming.
That was all just totally cut out. I think I might just, and then it was completely cut out afterwards.
I think it's going to take a while because I think I heard something about how privatizing back end stuff, so it's going to they actually can do what they want to do with it. But when it comes out, I'm totally there. I would love to be a cowgirl.
Well, you better watch out for Tuna Sue and Lil Debbie Magoo. That's who we're gonna play.
Wait. So how are these dinosaur riding ogres going to actually end up getting to the Old West? And I mean, it's okay if you want to have the character, but dude, give us some plausible, explanations.
Characters skip around.
What are you doing? Like the quantum leap of
yeah? It was all a dream.
One of my favorite things to do with role play characters, because like I already told you guys, I'm a tabletop, is to take a character and put it into different settings.
Yeah.
So you take a character and it's like here's it in steampunk, here it is in fantasy.
Yeah, she's not going to be a princess this time. She's just going to be,
It's quantum leap. You're doing a quantum leap of role playing.
Or the standard thing is it was all a dream.
Oh, yeah, no. I think you should absolutely start Red Dead with Tuna Sue still thinking she's in what is she in? The Conan. Is she in Conan now, or is she over in something else?
The last thing she was in was Conan. But I don't think they have outfits in Red Dead Redemption like they did in Conan. So
well, no, obviously she's not going to be dressed like that because she got quantum leaped over into Red Dead. But in her mind,
it changes your outfit when you jump in.
Yes, absolutely. Otherwise, you'd be like Marty McFly, and everybody asking you why you're wearing a life preserver.
No, we're the plan is to be like a palm reader. And I'll be like, oh my goodness, your love line is so fat and girthy. It's beautiful.
Well, let's face it, it's a Rockstar game. You could just tell everybody they're going to get teabagged in 5 minutes, and you'll be like the most accurate palm reader ever in the history of the game.
Mm-hmm. That's funny.
It's so true. It's funny because it's true.
My guilty pleasure in the afternoons or in the early evenings is watching the TMZ 30-minute show that comes on TV, and I could care less. And I don't even know half of the damn people that are they're following at the airport, but their tagline is just absolutely perfect for you and I, Indy. It's like they say, "We love Hollywood, but we just have a funny way of showing it," and it's like, we love the game industry, but we have a funny way of showing it too.
That's funny.
So.
For sure.
All right, we're really leaving this time.
Yeah. All right. Thank you guys so much. Yeah. All right. Bye, everybody.
See y'all.